What if I told you nations don't exist? Not really, not physically, not in the way we think they do. If every border on every map suddenly vanished overnight, mountains would still stand, rivers would still flow, and people would still be people. The world would look the same, except for one thing: our ideas about it would collapse. Today, we're going to explore why nations are not natural, eternal entities, but human inventions that became so powerful we forgot we invented them. Let's dive deep into the theories, the history, and the illusions that created the modern world. Part 1. Where did nations come from? The big illusion. To understand why nations don't exist, we need to start with a shocking truth. For most of human history, nations were not a thing. People didn't identify as French, Chinese, or Mexican. They identified with their village, their tribe, their religion, their local lord or king. The word nation, as we know it today, it's new, very new. So how did we get from tribes and kingdoms to modern nations? Enter one of the most important political ideas ever created: the nation-state. A nation-state is the belief that a group of people who share a common identity should have their own political territory. Sounds natural, right? Except it's not. It's a story, a powerful one. And it was shaped by 3 historical explosions. 1. The printing press, when stories became nations. In the 1400s, the printing press appears, and suddenly, people read the same language, the same news, the same myths, the same national stories. This is what political theorist Benedict Anderson famously called imagined communities. Not imagined because they're fake, but because we imagine ourselves as part of a huge group of people we will never meet. You will never meet 99.9% of your fellow citizens, but you feel connected to them. That connection? A story. 1. The rise of centralized states. Kings become nations. From the 1600s to 1800s, kings needed money and loyalty, so they started to create unified laws, unified languages, unified identities. France is the best example. In 1789, only 12% of people in France spoke French as a native language. The rest spoke local dialects. France wasn't a cultural nation. It was an empire of villages. The French state created the French nation through schools, military service, national holidays, a common French story. The same happened in Italy, Germany, Spain, and many others. 1. Industrialization. Factories need identity. Factories needed workers who follow the same rules, people who speak the same language, citizens who pay taxes, soldiers who defend borders. So states built national education systems to teach people, you belong to this nation. You have a shared past. You must defend it. The nation became a tool to organize society for the industrial era. Here's the twist. Just because nations are invented doesn't mean they're meaningless. Money is invented. Human rights are invented. Marriage is invented. Laws are invented. But they shape the world because we believe in them. Nations are exactly the same. They are collective myths that became so powerful they feel like physical reality. A flag is just fabric. A border is just a line. A map is just paper. But what they represent? People will die for it. Here's the philosophical bomb. Borders move all the time. Look at a map from 1200, 1700, 1900, 2000. Everything shifts. Empires rise, collapse, change shape. Nations merge, split, disappear. If nations were natural, eternal entities, they wouldn't be so unstable. What is real then? Geography is real. Culture is real. Language is real. Human communities are real. But the nation that claims to represent them? That's a story built on top of those realities. Part 5. Why this matters today. Understanding that nations are constructed helps us understand. 1. Nationalism, why people fight for lines on a map. 2. Globalization, why countries struggle to adapt when economies no longer respect borders. 1. Identity politics, why people defend identities that were invented only 200 years ago. 1. Conflicts. Most modern wars aren't about religion or land. They're about national stories clashing. Russia versus Ukraine, Israel versus Palestine, India versus Pakistan, China versus Taiwan. These are disputes over identity, not just territory. Part 6, the final question. What happens if we stop believing? Let's return to the opening thought experiment. If tomorrow all borders vanished, would the world really change? People would still speak their languages, cook their food, practice their traditions, love their culture. Because culture is real. Nations are not. Nations are the stories we agreed to believe. And if one day we choose to believe different stories, the map of the world will change again. So next time you look at a globe, remember, you're not just looking at land and water. You're looking at the most successful fiction ever written by humanity. And the question isn't whether nations exist, but whether we are choosing the right stories to live by. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep understanding the world.